The children's ministry, along with Jason and some other wonderful adults, have come together to put together a play for Purim. All right, so, with that being said, King Xerxes, will you take your throne? And Queen Vashti, you as well.
Yeah, Queen Vashti as well.
Now, I'm going to give this warning once. You may be a participant today in the play. It's a warning. That's why I'm up here, so I can see everyone that's here and present. Are we ready?
No. Yeah.
Well, hope you practice your lines. In the third year of his reign, King Xerxes, who ruled over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Ethiopia, held a magnificent feast in his court for his officials, nobles, governors, and servants as a display of wealth. Get on up there, servants, officials, and all the above. As a display of his wealth, glory, and splendor. Today, our King Xerxes is humbly played by Nehemiah. Now, after this feast, King Xerxes hosted a second feast, which lasted 7 days over in the garden courtyard of his palace for all who were present. Now, it says here in the Bible that there were cotton curtains and violet hangings hung by fine linen cords, silver rods, and marble pillars. There were also gold couches, gemstones, really expensive wine. When I asked how we were going to fit this into the church's budget, Pastor Ken said some things aren't as important to the story, so blame him. Now, Queen Vashti, played by our endearing Maria, also hosted a feast for all the ladies who lived in Xerxes' royal palace. Give her a clap. But they made sure they did it far from the babbling men. On the seventh day of Xerxes' garden feast, the king, who was merry with wine, commanded his servant, let's see here, we'll do Ethan, commanded his servant to run over to Queen Vashti. Run, Ethan, run! Run over to Queen Vashti and ask her to have her adorn her royal crown and make an appearance so that the king may show everyone how beautiful she was. Now, Queen Vashti did not wish to be eye candy for the king's court, and so her feelings were made verbal.
Excuse me? I would not put on my royal crown for all the king's officials and subjects to stare at me. Tell the king that I refuse.
The servant returned to the king. In receiving this news, the king was enraged. Xerxes dismissed his officials from the party back to their seats and summoned his wise men, who will temporarily be represented by, let's see here. Let's do Jamie, Ken, and Randy. Yes, those are our wise men. Now go up to the king, wise men. Get on up there, Pastor Ken. Now King Xerxes, bringing them into a huddle, asked his wise men what he should do to discipline her, to which they replied, oh, come on, guys, you don't know your lines? It's whatever. I'll just do everything myself. The wise men suggested that the king should strip Queen Vashti of her title and replace her with someone less disciplined. And so it was done. Go and take the crown from her head. Go ahead, King Xerxes. Go take the crown from her head.
Run!
Oh, sit tight, gentlemen. You're not out of the woods yet. There we go. Now, in misfortune, the ladies dispersed and returned to their seats as well. The king then had the wise men write letters concerning this matter. So pretend to write letters, gentlemen. There you go. The wise men finished writing these letters and sent them to all 127 provinces so that the women could continue to honor their husbands, because everybody cares so much about what the royalty is doing. Thank you, wise men. You may be seated. Give them a hand. Now, the king, returning to his throne, came up with an idea of a royal edict. After a time, the king decided to send out servants to find beautiful women to take Queen Vashti's place. Now Mordecai, played by our charming Matt, caught wind of this and summoned his daughter. Go ahead, clap for Matt. This daughter he had taken as his own after her mother and father had passed. He insisted that she join up with the other women who were venturing to the king's palace. He gave her a high five, said, "You got this, girl," urged her not to reveal her heritage to anyone, and sent her on her way. "Arise, ladies, and head to the palace." Now, after arriving at the palace, the women underwent training and beautification by use of oil, myrrh, ointments, sugar, spice, and everything nice for 12 months. When the time came for the women to be presented before the king, Esther, played by our graceful Ava, found favor in the eye of the captain of the king's guard, Haggai, played by the stalwart Jaden. Arise, Jaden. Give him a clap. Now, fear not. Favor and romantic interests are not the same. When it came time for the king to choose, the women lined up in front of the king's seat. And let's see here. Well, Kyra, why don't you go ahead, switch with Eliana. You know what? No, go back. And Layla, why don't you switch with Maria? There we go, perfect. All right. King Xerxes and Haggai went and stood at the end of the line. They began to strut at a reasonable pace down the line until they reached Esther. Now, as if her grace and beauty was not already going to win her the day, Haggai, favoring her, endorsed her to the king.
This is the one I have been telling you about, sir.
Needing no more, King Xerxes grandly declared,
"Let it be known today that Esther has found favor and fascination in my sight. May it be declared to all the land today, I have chosen my queen. You onlookers may now clap."
All the other ladies were so upset they ran away to their seats sobbing. And so the king summoned handmaidens, Layla and Eliana, to serve under Esther. And Esther was left royal garments in her dressing room to change into. To celebrate this occasion, the king held another feast for all his officials and servants in Esther's name. The king also lowered taxes in all the provinces and gave abundant gifts with royal generosity. And maybe that's how it should be. When you get married, maybe you should have to give everyone gifts. A discussion for another day, and one, I reckon, will come to bite me in the rear. Just wait a moment. That's a nice chair you got there. Why don't you just sit upright in it? Maybe the rest of you should take a seat too. Ooh. Now stand back up. You ever been to a Catholic service? All right, get back down. Up, stand back up. Up on your knees. Up, back up again. And so the king's, I now present to you Queen Esther. King Xerxes, if you would please, place the royal crown gently on her head. Over there. right, give her a clap. Go ahead and take your seats at the throne room. The rest of you may be seated. Now, on the other side of current events, Mordecai, give him a round of applause, arose and went to the palace gate to rest. And as he rested, he overheard two guards. I need volunteers again. Let's see here. I'm thinking Brandon and Jacob. Yeah, you didn't think I saw you duck. All right, now go and stand near Mordecai, you two. Now these two guards, they were plotting to put hands on the king, and I am not talking about tickling. They are plotting to kill the king. Mordecai, overhearing this, summoned Queen Esther, and he requested that she warn the king. So Esther, receiving this news, hurried into the palace to warn the king in Mordecai's name.
My king, there is a plot by some of your guards to kill you.
Upon investigation, this was found to be true, and both were hanged for treason. Guards, take them away. Get up there, guards. You think you pay them to do their job. Oh, go take those other guards away.
There you go.
Grab them by the arms and take them away. Now, this service done to the king was recorded by the king's scribe in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. Get on up there, scribe, and record it.
How do you spell? Treason.
And the scribe finished recording and returned to his seat. Now Xerxes appointed an official named Haman, played by our confident Adam. To command in the name of the king. Because of this, Haman demanded all bow to him as if he was king. And so, Haman left the courtroom and walked from the garden to the palace gate. And all who he passed rose and bowed to him, if able, except one man, Mordecai. This act of dissidence enraged Haman.
That Mordecai refuses to bow to me. I will have my revenge, not just on him, but on all the Jews.
You may promptly boo him. Now, Haman picked up some fizzy dice. Oh, that's supposed to say fuzzy. Fuzzy dice, and plotted by casting lots to determine the time to strike. And with a plan, Haman approached the king. She's his shadow.
My king, there are certain people living in your kingdom who do not keep your laws. Let me send out a decree to have them destroyed. I will pay 10,000 silver to anyone who can accomplish this.
Now, Haman did not tell the full truth, so boo him again. The king, trusting Haman, gave him his signet ring so that he may send out letters with the king's seal. And in these letters were orders to destroy the Jews, both children and elderly, both male and female, and seize all their possessions and wealth. Now this news ended up reaching the Jews across all the land, and there was much mourning, fasting, and in humility before the Lord, the Jews wore sackcloth clothes and dusted themselves in ashes. Mordecai did this as well. Now again, Pastor Ken rejected my immersive ideas. He said we couldn't dump ashes all over Matt in the sanctuary because that'd be too dirty. It's fine. It's whatever. So Mordecai, dressed in rugged attire, went to the palace gates, praying and weeping. Esther's handmaidens, again played by the lovely Layla and Eliana, were strolling around the palace gate and noticed, all right, ladies, you got to stroll by the palace gate. And noticed Mordecai. Queen Esther was enjoying the palace garden. Queen Esther was enjoying the palace garden when her handmaidens very carefully ran across the sanctuary to tell her what they had seen. Wrong way. Upon hearing this news, Queen Esther sent her handmaidens with clothes back over to Mordecai with questions on why he was dressed this way. So again, Layla and Eliana ran carefully across the sanctuary to Mordecai.
Mordecai, take these clothes.
I must refuse, but thank you.
Then why do you weep?
Mordecai explained the decree that was sent out by Haman, and there was much communication back and forth through Esther's servants. Well, let's get a move on, girls. Hurry! Run back and forth until I'm tired. Mordecai had asked Esther to plead on the behalf of her people to the king. Now Esther had obeyed Mordecai and had not mentioned her heritage to anyone. But the time was now, for she alone of all the Jews would escape persecution if she did not act. Is it not incredible that she was made queen for such a time as this? Okay, I'm tired. You can stop running. During that conversation, Esther had asked Mordecai to gather all the Jews in Susa to fast and pray for her. Esther knew that if she approached the king without being summoned, even her, queen of the land, could be put to death. The only exception is if the king extended his golden scepter. Regardless, she had to act. Entering the king's presence, Queen Esther was recognized by the king, and he pointed his golden scepter at her.
What do you wish, Queen Esther? Whatever you ask, I will give you, up to half of my kingdom.
If it pleases the king, let me prepare a banquet for the king and his commander Haman. There I will ask you to grant my wish.
It shall be done as you have asked, Queenie.
And so the king sent word to Haman. So we need a volunteer messenger. How about Ethan? Good, now go to Adam. Haman, upon hearing this news, was happy. And on his way home, he again passed Mordecai. And again, Mordecai does not bow to him. And Haman is filled with rage. He walks over to some random group in the congregation and pretends they are his family and friends. Excellent. Haman rants about Mordecai, stomping his feet and pounding his fists, to which that group of people Adam has elected to be his family all shout out after me, "Build gallows for Mordecai to be hanged on."
Build gallows for Mordecai to be hanged on.
This idea pleases Haman, and so he orders them built. That same night, as Xerxes laid down for bed, he became he became restless and asked his scribe to read to him the book of Chronicles mentioned before. "Get on up there, scribe." As the scribe read, The king recognized that Mordecai's deed had never been rewarded for saving the king's life. Now Haman, boo him. You can't boo him and his family and friends. Was walking around late, and the king heard him and invited him into his chambers.
What should be done for the man the king wishes to honor?
I would say the king should place a royal robe on him and let him ride your personal horse, sire. You should also put a crown on his head and parade him through the seated congregation, and have someone declare to all, "This is the man who the king wishes to honor."
The king agreed and sent Haman to make such preparations. Now Haman was ecstatic, for he thought that the king wished to honor him for all that he had done in the king's name. That next day, the king summoned Mordecai. When Mordecai arrived, Haman was ordered to put a robe and a crown on him.
Fix that.
Then Mordecai mounted the king's horse and Haman was instructed to lead Mordecai through the congregation, declaring, "This is the man the king wishes to honor." You may all clap for Mordecai. Gentlemen, in front of the king. In front of the king. Hurry. Hurry. Stretch it out. Take another lap.
This is the man.
You want this rope?
This is the man the king wishes to honor. Give Mordecai glory. You know what? While we're at it, everybody boo Haman.
This is the man the king wishes to honor.
Now, night had passed and the next day came, and the king summoned Mordecai. And when Mordecai arrived, oh wait, I already read that. Just kidding, we won't do it a third time. After the parade, and later in the evening, Haman, the king, and the king's court attended Esther's feast. The feast lasted several days, but on the second day, the king summoned Esther and asked,
What do you wish, Queen Esther? Whatever you will ask, I will give you, up to half of my kingdom.
My king, if you favor me, hear my cry. My people have been sold to be sought out and destroyed. If my people were just sold into slavery, I would not have bothered the king, for he has bigger worries. But my people are being annihilated.
Who is that? Wait. Who is he that has dared to do such evil?
An enemy to the king, the wicked Haman.
You know, I was supposed to tell you to do that. It says here, everyone boo him. The king was furious and stepped into his garden to clear his head. Haman ran to Queen Esther and began pulling and tugging at her garments, begging for his life. The king, re-entering the banquet, saw this and was outraged.
You dare to assault the queen in my own house in front of me? Guards, seize this man and hang him on the gallows he ordered built.
I know he's evil and everything, but a human life is still a human life. And so the guards took him by the arms, put a covering over his face, and took him away to be hanged on the exact gallows made for Mordecai. Then the king's anger had subsided, and Queen Esther went to him and pleaded with him to revert the damage that was done. The king, being just, had Esther summon Mordecai. They approached the king, and Mordecai was given the king's signet ring to write and seal letters that would stretch all across the 127 provinces to revert the decree that was made by Haman. Yeah, cheer for that. That's good. Additionally, Esther was appointed the head of Haman's house and had charge over his lands and possessions. That's another thing to be proud of. Let's give that a round of applause. Though Esther, who too was just, appointed Mordecai to run her house. And then Mordecai, with all this new power, right, and glory, left the presence of the king in a royal cloak and with a crown on his head. And all the congregation of Upper Room rejoiced and clapped. The people of Israel have been saved. As these edicts reached all across the land, a feast was held by all the Jews in the kingdom to celebrate the coming of good times from bad times. They exchanged gifts with one another and with the poor, and were glad. Mordecai and Queen Esther wrote about these days and named them Purim. They established that they and their descendants will celebrate these 2 days without fail every year, according to the written instructions and at the prescribed time. Purim will be observed among the Jews. The memory of this great event will not perish among its descendants. Thank you. At this time, may our team assemble at the front. Ladies, if you would please curtsy. Gentlemen, bow. You may all go back to your seats. So just some special things we want to throw out there. One, Jason was so kind enough to bring this to our attention, and over the past 3 months we've been kind of putting together this little comedy routine, right, for the celebration of Purim, right? So just everybody give a round of applause for Jason. Additionally, Mother Marcy, if you'd please stand up, make yourselves known. I didn't tell you what they did yet. They bought us meals as we practiced after church every day, costumes, all that stuff, wardrobe.
No, we never practiced. We did not practice.
We practiced. Couldn't you tell? But, so just give them a round of applause for being so supportive. And of course, the children that helped make the play possible. If we can also thank our volunteers today, Jamie, Randy, Ken, Jacob, and Brandon. Give them a round of applause. There we go. I wish I could listen like that. Right? Past that, I just have a few final words I want to share. As we close today, All right, I know services might be a little short today, but that's because we got to make up for next week. A few final words, though. In Esther 4:14, it says, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." Today we are in similar shoes. What a time it is to be a Christian, that we have been appointed to a priesthood in such a time as this. Right? That we here hold the good news, the light to share with a world drowning in darkness. God has surely blessed us. And if we keep the path and we keep his commandments, and we are humble and have a spirit of repentance, just as Mordecai was adorned in royal robes and a crown, so too will Jesus adorn us in royal robes and a crown. And there will he say to us, "Welcome home, good and faithful servant." And now as we close our service, a reading from the scripture, Isaiah 55:12. Just skipped over. "For you shall go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall break forth into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands." I now turn the stage to Jason and his team. Go ahead, hit the music.
Yay, Tyler!
Gotta be humble. So thank you. Here we go. Clap. Give them a round of applause.
You can take the conference down if you like.